Hi, and welcome to the One Shot Show, where GMs go to level up. I'm Matt.
And my name is Mock.
That's his real name. It's on his birth certificate. His middle name is Ian, and his surname is Bird. Mockingbird.
No, I
That's
got
the bit.
it.
That's the joke.
If you are still listening...
What are we talking about this episode?
The topic of this episode is going to be paid GMing.
Yeah. Something that we have both done behind closed doors. I think the title of this is going to be something like "So You Want to Make Money Off D&D," because that's what it seems like from the outset.
It is not a lucrative business.
No.
If you're listening for the Get Rich Quick scheme, then please find another podcast.
It's what I like to call a get rich slow scheme. Yeah, but genuinely, I think let's talk about a couple of things across this, right? Which is, I think the things that I'm interested in talking about are why should you do it, how should you start, and what's it actually like. And I kind of want to start with the how do you start, because you and I think it's slightly different starts to this.
Yeah, go on. How did you start paid GMing?
I started paid GMing. Came across a local company that did games for pay. They were basically a GM hiring service. I reached out to them. I interviewed with them. We were all set to get going. And then the company went under. And then I immediately found out about another one. So I just started doing it with them instead. That company, to a slight rep. I'm not wearing this shirt because it's hideous on me. It's called Questbook. They're not paying me to say that. I was listed with Questbook for a while. The way their particular service happens to work is they work with a couple of partners who facilitate regular things that people pay and show up to, and you get assigned a game, and if you're a GM with them, you can go up to those, or people can specifically select you and hire you and bring you in for a game.
Now, Matt, the vast majority of professional DMs are not contracted to any kind of company at all. The vast majority of DMs are running online, and that is how I began. I specifically began during the COVID lockdowns. I wasn't sure how long the lockdowns were going to last. I wasn't sure how many of us are going to be inside for how long. And I saw a massive demand for people across specifically Roll20, which is the largest virtual tabletop that there is. You can go and check that out for free.
Also not paying us to say that.
They are also not paying us to say that. And I will also add that Roll20 is buggy as hell. My God, it is a ramshackle system held together with sellotape and prayers and a bit of internet magic. But now there is a proliferation of paid DMs online, and the biggest platform for that currently is Start Playing Games, whom we are also not sponsored by.
Incredible. I think what we're really getting at, the heart of the topic of discussion here, is we aren't sponsored by anyone. We'd love to sponsor anyone out there who wants to give us money to talk about what we're talking about.
We do not have a get-rich-quick scheme. No. I want to really emphasize that.
At best, this will be a get-rich-medium scheme.
Oh, if you're doing really well, it'll be a get-rich-medium scheme. I'd like to know, Matt, have you ever played in a paid game?
Funnily enough, strictly speaking, no. I have played in games run by other GMs who I know run paid games. Because I'm happen to be friends with a number of them. I have also sort of sat in on one or two regular sessions at events to help pad out numbers when I have myself been involved in facilitating said events. But I've never contracted the services of a paid GM, which makes me a hypocrite.
I will agree. Because before I got into paid GMing, I decided that I wanted to see what the standard was like to know if I was good enough to try and get past that imposter syndrome. Because running a table for a group of friends with some chips and some beers in your garage is very different from having people from all over the world sit down at their computers and either video call in or being hired for somebody's birthday to sit down and deliver an experience. Yeah. And let me tell you about my experience, Matt. I sat down to play a delightful game called Pathfinder 2nd Edition.
Never heard of it. If there is one thing that we are true shills for, it's Pathfinder 2nd Edition.
Pathfinder, you will never need to pay us. We will absolutely endorse you every episode we possibly can. A beautiful system. But this guy that I was running This was over the COVID lockdowns. This is when I was interested in getting into it. He ran a couple of sessions and then he basically ghosted us. And he never accepted our payment. Even at the end of each session, the players would ask, we would love to reimburse you for your time and your effort. You've put together something really beautiful for us. And I feel that when I had that experience and I saw how much imposter syndrome other GMs were feeling, that I knew for a fact that that was something I could do so much better. And now, the online games that I run, I've got background music, I've got custom-made art, I know how Roll20 actually works, which, let me assure you, makes me a fucking rarity.
Yeah.
Because, again, Roll20, buggy as hell.
It's rough. It's really rough to use. Funny enough, when I was running paid games, I despise doing online. I think the style of game that I run just works better in person.
It's very different.
And it's because it's to be honest, it's quite low budget in a weird way. Like I don't show up with a whole lot of maps and miniatures and so on. You know, I do what I can, right? But because that's the style of game I'm already used to running and have got very good at running, if I am, trying to make myself bring some maps in every single week, and then I'm kind of molding what I'm trying to do around this idea that I need to bring in maps, I need to have background music with these sort of relatively pre-planned set pieces and miniatures printed out and so on.
You're touching on something really important here, which is that if you're paying for a Dungeon Master, you are expecting production value.
Yes.
If I am showing up, I ran a paid game yesterday. It was for a group of gifted and talented kids at a special program, and they specifically...
I was one of those.
Oh,
yeah.
Look at
Not
where
one
you
of the kids
are now.
at your table. I was in disguise.
No, honestly incredible. They had specifically requested a style of game. I went away. I designed a series of dungeons like an escape room. They wanted lots of puzzles. They wanted lots of riddles. I showed up. I had printouts. I had cutouts. I had riddles. I had a whole thing prepared. And the production value was very high because I had essentially part of my charge was my preparation and getting everything together. And whenever you are hiring a dungeon master, that's the kind of thing that you should really be expecting. And I think the standard is better now that we have large platforms like Start Playing, and that there's much more of an established culture over what to expect from a paid dungeon master. Those early days, it was a gamble. It was very rough. It's much safer now.
And funny enough, that's one of the reasons I don't do it anymore. Not because I'm not willing to go there on the production value, because I do those really high production value set pieces for my own home games. When no one's paying me. Like I'm just doing it for my own entertainment and fun and my friends, right? The level of production value that I bring is much more invisible. I aim to bring what I view as being a higher level of immersion than what I think you're going to get in a lot of games, because it's something I put a lot of active time and attention into, and that's not something you're going to notice until you're like 15 sessions deep, and that is a lot of time and also money to commit to a paid GM before really getting the feel for that. So I sort of looked at it and went, I could change what I'm doing. I could absolutely be the guy who brings maps every single session and builds these set pieces in, whether or not it makes the story weave as deftly, and deliver that. I could deliver something that's a bit more customized. If somebody says, yeah, I want something that's going to feel like, an Ocean's 11 style heist, I could, build those sorts of things in custom. But I'm actually not interested in doing that thing. So when we're talking about becoming a paid GM, consider whether it's actually right for you. Because just because you run a good game and you feel very confident doesn't mean that that's actually going to translate to the paid thing.
There are particular challenges with turning your hobby into a profession. And one of those challenges is adapting the game that you love, the thing that you love, and occasionally changing it essentially for your clients.
Yep.
I am not a gifted and talented 12-year-old boy. But, I know, shocking. But yesterday I went away, I crafted a game specifically for that audience, and I delivered a really wonderful time. And the other really important thing to think about if you want to become a paid GM is monetizing a hobby. It's always a gamble. I have never enjoyed playing tabletop games more than I am now. I am having the time of my fucking life, and I cannot exaggerate how much fun my job is every single day. If you were listening to us on the train on your way to your incredibly soul-draining accountant job, I would like you to know that I'm having way more fun than you right at this very moment.
Yeah.
But that is not the case for everyone, and specifically for your experience of like dropping out and moving away and distancing yourself because it wasn't the type of style game that you enjoyed running. How did you figure that out?
There's there's two sort of anecdotes that kind of speak towards it really well. First is for quite a while, a couple of years, I think, I was running some regular drop-in games at a local board game cafe that would run every other week, and there was a bit of a crowd of regulars who would often come down, and they sort of had the GMs that they tended to enjoy the style of. I had one particular player, let's call her Diana, who would come and join my session every single time. And she and I got to know each other quite well. She was really lovely. I found out she was a teacher. And actually, she ran her school's D&D club. I will say her name was Diana Maple, right? She would run her school's D&D club and would like take things that she was getting out of my games and sort of draw a bit of inspiration from that and run them in at her club. Fast forward a couple of years, I get hired for a game. It's a couple of people who, they've got a discount voucher. They pick me as the person they want to go with. Great. We're about an hour into the game, and one of them says, "This really reminds me of Miss Maple's games from D&D Club." I'm running. It's her. Like the person who I play for. That's why they found it so familiar. Is I'm like, oh yeah, I taught her everything she knows. But that was, I mean, how specific do I have to get to find the right kind of group, right? Like. The thread that had to take place there for that game to be that level of experience for those players, right? That's something that got built up over a long period of time, and I was sort of speaking to that before, that I think the way I do things takes a while to really sort of sink in and feel the enjoyment of. They had an absolute blast, because by the end, they're like, this is better than Miss Maple's games. The other experience I had was, funny enough, a group of yours, who's, you had a group that you were running semi-regularly for, who, liked the way you were doing things, but wanted something that was a little bit more serious, wanted something that, in their words, they wanted a GM who would let them fall on their sword, who wouldn't bail them out of their bad decisions. And you went, "Matt, I think you're perfect for this." And I would say to this day, I think you're right. But very quickly, a couple of sessions in, we realized that there was a disconnect here, right? And it's because, in
That's
a weird
hard.
way, well, the players don't actually always know what they want. You can say we want a GM that lets us fall on our sword a bit more, but when you're actually sat down and you're doing that, if you're not enjoying it as much, or it's taking time to click, and you're remembering the guy who used to run games for you, and you're remembering the fact that you're paying money to do this, you can sort of go, maybe this isn't right. And on the other side of that, I was sitting there going, I don't quite think this is right. I think, I don't actually think I'm delivering them something that they really want, and I think we're having a miscommunication and getting to the heart of what they want so that I could deliver it for them, so we parted ways.
It's an art more than it is a service.
Yes.
It's a performance. And
Yeah.
that, I'd like to ask you, do you think that monetizing this hobby is good for the hobby?
I would say yes.
We are both paid GMs.
Yeah. The reason I say yes, though, is I do think about a lot of the groups that do hire me. You've already mentioned, kids' parties comes up a lot. I've done one or two stag do's in my time. You get some bloke who's 35, he's about to get married. He played D&D in high school with his boys. They've never played since. They're kind of keen to do that again, right? That's an option.
You're saying that it's good for the game because it makes it more accessible to a wide range of people who don't want the long-term commitment.
And to be completely honest, there are more players than GMs right now. That's always been a fundamental tension within the game.
Supply and demand.
And I think there's maybe a whole other discussion that can be had about that, which is very much on the business side of how tabletop RPGs work. But yeah, I think it's good for the game from an access standpoint. But also, it doesn't stop normal games from happening, because I am a GM, and I imagine you're much the same, because I really wanted to play and I didn't know anyone who was running. So I decided, well, I might as well run a game. And then all of my friends can play, and I can also play. And I loved it, and I've done it ever since. And that's how most people become a regular GM in the first place.
I agree. And I know that quite a few people, certainly that I've seen online, reacting to paid game posts, will clutch their pearls and get very defensive. And nobody is stepping in to ruin your own home game.
Yeah.
And in fact, a lot of the paid GMs are really helping publicize and spread the hobby. And many of the really big shows at the moment, the people who are playing Critical Role are all being paid to be there. The people who are running Dimension 20 are all being paid to be there. And that kind of professional layer on the top of all of these home-brewed, kids in their mum's basement, rolling dice for free with each other, that is never going away. But being able to hire a professional GM and turn your passion into an actual job, in my case, is helping people all over the world.
I've got a very direct example, and I already talked about it. Miss Maple, who played in my paid games, who runs unpaid games for a group of students at her school.
And she's learning the things that she needs to know.
But it goes to show, you talk about spreading it, and it gave that person access to the point where she's now stepped into the GM shoes herself and has happily run games for the last several years. They are not two things in competition with one another. They can and should exist alongside one another, because at the end of the day, sometimes not every group is like my group of friends, where I was willing to make the step and go, okay, I'll do the different thing and run as a GM. Sometimes you've got a group of 5 mates and none of them want to do it, and they are not wrong. They are totally within their right.
I think that's a good place to wrap up the episode.
It is. Yeah. No final remarks, no final thoughts. Do you have a final zinger?
I never have zingers. I'm the least funny person I know.
I had a zinger burger earlier today.
I will stand corrected. You are the least funny person I know.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, that wasn't exactly a banger, but it was a zinger. That's us for this episode. If you like what you just heard, feel free to support us on Patreon. Every little bit helps. Go to patreon.com/OneShotShow.